Okay, so today I wanted to do kind of a quick review of a Bible I just received that I'm actually quite impressed with. This one is the Holy Bible Darby Translation. It's put out by Bible Etc. I believe BibleEtc.org. I'll have a link in the description of this video. This is actually, in my opinion, I'm just going to say this up front, I think it's one of the best value Bibles that money can buy, as far as I'm concerned. So just taking a look at the construction, the leather, I believe, is a calfskin. Opening it up, you do have a paste down liner. Pretty kind of just typical as far as like a value kind of Bible is concerned. But what's neat is you do have art gilt. So a little bit of like a salmon edged art gilt that's applied to the gilding. It is gold gilt. So it is a gold gilt, and I would say the gilding on it is quite nice. You have like a red and gold head and tail bands. And then you have these really nice ribbons that are quite soft. I want to say they're Beresford ribbons. This Bible doesn't have a title page or anything, and I'll get into contents here in a little bit, but it's printed by Kingston Bible Trust. And it's printed in the Netherlands by Youngblood. So quite an established printer. If you're familiar with Bible paper and printing, you know that Royal Youngblood is an incredible Bible printer. I think that actually kind of does it as far as construction goes. I want to talk a little bit about the Bible. It doesn't have a title page or it doesn't, have a presentation page. We do have a few pages of blank cardstock at the beginning, but there's no family genealogies or anything like that. It just goes to the title page, and then we get into introductory notes. These introductory notes, I think, are actually really pretty cool. Gives a little bit of history of the Darby, why the translation, etc. There's extracts from it. It was translated from German and French. Some really good information. If you happen to end up getting this Bible, I would definitely recommend reading the introductory notices and the front information. It talks about some translation principles and ideas that he ran across or ran into as he was translating the Bible. I think it's actually a really pretty good translation too. There's a few notable things that as we go into the Bible that I'll talk about that I quite like as far as this translation is concerned. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit and get to this page, which is a chronological table of the kings and prophets. And it goes into an interesting time frame. As you can see, there's the birth of the Messiah. It gives approximate years. And I want to say that notes on the chronological dates, translated from French, has a continuation of this same kind of timeline in how he arrives at this kind of information up above. So you have from the Exodus to Egypt, length of Solomon's reign, 69 weeks from creation to the birth of Messiah, and you have a total of 4,000. And this is, of course, in the years. So it's a pretty interesting, it's just pretty interesting information that I would commend to anybody who picks up the Bible to look at, because I think it's well worth the read. The Old Testament, translation from the original tongues by Darby. So a few things I want to say about the way this Bible is laid out. It is a verse by verse, but also seems to somehow maintain a paragraph format, which I don't think I've ever actually seen done in a Bible. And I just think it's really pretty cool. So it's verse by verse, makes for finding your verses really, really easy. But it's all paragraph format, which makes for an excellent reading experience, in my opinion. It's just a really good Bible. As far as the text size and the boldness of the font, again, it's a really good reader, in my opinion. I would say the font size is approximately 9.5, 10. It's pretty big, in my opinion. It's definitely bigger than an 8, 8.5. It's a pretty big Bible. In fact, let me just measure it really quick. Sorry I didn't do this before. You can almost see it's about 10 inches lengthwise, and then so it's not a small Bible necessarily, and it's about a 6.25 inches widthwise. And then as far as thickness, it's not terribly thick. Let's see if I can bend that. Call it an 1.5 inches thick. I think I'm being pretty generous there. But anyways, as I was mentioning, it is all paragraph and verse by verse, which the proof of it is being shown just by me thumbing through it. I've never actually seen that done, and it's done very, very well, in my opinion. Now, some of the, if I could say, weaknesses, I'd rather talk about the strengths. So as far as some of the strengths are concerned, it's a well-constructed Bible. The art gilt is there. It has really nice Beresford ribbons. It's printed on excellent Bible paper. The printing, the lettering, the font is amazing. The verse-by-verse paragraph format is really neat and pretty cool. So there's a lot of positives this Bible has to offer. Now, as far as some of the negatives, the one thing it doesn't really have much of is a lot of cross-references, and notes can be lacking at times, which is, in my opinion, fine, especially if you just want a text-only kind of Bible. I do like some of the notes that it has here just in Genesis 1. But again, I remember actually kind of thumbing through this initially thinking there's no cross-references whatsoever, and I was proven wrong pretty quickly. There are a few, like here, note Zechariah 14:19, but they're pretty few and far between. There's a Psalm 1 right there. So it isn't like there's a ton of cross-references. Some other positives that I personally like in this Bible is a consistent translation of the divine name of God as Jehovah. So Darby consistently translated the name YHWH Yod-Heh Vav-Heh as Jehovah, the Germanic English equivalent or guess. And I actually prefer that God's name be used in the Bible. I think it's more literal, and I just personally like it. I'm going to continue just kind of thumbing through this Bible just to continue to show the verse by verse and paragraph format. As we get into the Psalms, it still pretty much stays the same. You have obviously indentations now pretty much at every single verse in its poetic sections, which is pretty common in a lot of your poetic settings. You're going to have a lot of indentations. And I just noticed that little mark right there on the A for all. I have not actually, other than that one thing, I don't think I've seen any printing errors throughout this Bible. I've thumbed through it a bit. I haven't marked in it yet. This will be a reader for me, though. I'm going to be just using it to kind of highlight, maybe take a few underlining notes, and that's pretty much it. As far as the New Testament is concerned, the words of Christ are still in black, so there is no transition to red. Some prefer it, some don't. So just figured I would make mention that this is a black letter edition. Then kind of just scrolling through to the back. You can see we get a little bit more heavy notes in the New Testament too, which is kind of nice. The Old Testament is quite a bit lighter on the notes than the New Testament is. And I'm one of those that I do actually like to study. So I do like as much notes, I suppose, as I possibly can have. And I like different perspectives too, even if the perspective an interpretation or whatever commentary differs from my own theological background, I still like to see the opinions and interpretations of others. So that's just me. Obviously, don't ever depend on any one commentary on anything. Do your own study and get your own opinions. So we did get to the end of Revelation, and we have one just kind of blank page that separates the Bible from the maps. And we're getting towards the end of the Bible. There is no concordance on this Bible at all whatsoever. And there are some maps. These maps are look like old reprints. They're fresh, I would say. They look pretty well done overall. The font and writing on them are clear. I don't have any complaints in that aspect or in that regard. They're definitely older reprints. I do have one minor critique, if I could use it or say it. This Palestine word in the map, it should be Israel divided between the tribes, and I'm not a big fan of the use of Palestine. Palestine was an older word that I think Bibles would do well just not to use in regards to their maps. Palestine in the time of Christ. Again, this would be the Holy Land in the time of Christ, Israel in the time of Christ, Jerusalem and its surrounding territory in the time of Christ. But to say Palestine in the time of Christ, I think, is a misstep personally. Maybe for political, theological reasons I say this, but I say it nonetheless. And then after the maps, you do have a few more pages of card stock. I want to say 3, 1, 2, and yes. Actually, it's kind of just one real page in this one, because this is where the Bible is also edge-lined. I apologize, I didn't mention that earlier. It is edge-lined, it's paced down. Again, I say that this is probably one of the best valued Bibles I think you can buy, personally. It was, if I remember correctly, it was $98 to purchase the Bible. And considering the paper that it's made with, the fact that it's printed by Royal Youngblood, and it's, art gilt, has a calfskin cover, I think the material used is well worth the $100 personally. The only other contender I have as far as good value that would contend for this Bible spot, so to speak, as maybe perhaps the best Bible value printed ever, or at least that I'm familiar with, is a CBP, Church Bible Publishers Platinum Water Buffalo Bible that you can buy for about $120, $120 or $140, I think. Full Yap is my preference to those. But I put this Bible in league with that Church Bible Publishers book. I had seen this Bible actually in one of the Bible groups I'm with on Facebook. And the person that kind of brought my attention to it was like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a Schuyler. It's just as good as any Allen and Schuyler you could buy. And wow, this is an amazing Bible, especially for the money. I think Schuyler is, pretty much 200. Allens are pretty much $200. So for half of what you pay for an Allen or a Schuyler, you can get this instead. And I will say for the value of it, this would compare or compete with an Allen or Schuyler as far as the value is concerned, and as far as, you know, how well it's laid out, the print, and all that. But the Schuylers and the Allens are made total leather, and there's no paste down liners or anything like that. So you're getting a different kind of product. So this doesn't necessarily compare to a Schuyler or an Allen, because it's not a Allen or Schuyler. It is made slightly different. But I will say personally, if I only had, you know, $100 or $200 to buy a Bible, would I prefer to get maybe 2 Bibles for the price of one, or just one Schuyler? And with this in hand, I would say that this Bible, in my opinion, is in a way just as good as a Schuyler or Allen in that sense. It's pretty much the same kind of paper, the same printing. It's made with a great leather cover. The only drawback, I suppose, if it had a leather liner, I would probably say, yeah, this is well worth the money for sure. And this would probably, in my mind, compete probably with maybe a Schuyler or Allen. Its construction is incredible. There's no wrinkles in the gutters. It's overall a great Bible. So I definitely recommend it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer. Hopefully you got a pretty good idea as to what this Bible looks like through this little review video. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. God bless.